Uh, hey guys, uh, welcome back to Knowledge Bites for English. Today, hey guys, welcome back to Knowledge Bites for English. Now we will be doing The Lives of the Dead, the last chapter in Tim O'Brien's collection of stories of things they carried. This is a summary of the story of the lives of the dead. Basically, the lives of the dead chronicles how the dead are not really dead. The memory of the dead keep living on in the future generations. He uses some anecdotes of his childhood friend Linda to convey this. This is the summary of the story. Story begins with the narrator's reflection of his childhood, especially of his first experience with death when he was 9 years old. He tells of a story of a girl he knew who died of cancer. The girl is his friend Linda, and how her death affected him and the other children in the neighborhood. The narrator, or Tim O'Brien, then shifts to Vietnam, where the narrator serves as a soldier. He describes the various ways his comrades have died, including from friendly fire, booby traps, and direct combat. Tim O'Brien reflects on the absurdity of the war and the randomness of death. As the story progresses, O'Brien talks about the power of memory and storytelling. He says that in some ways the dead are still alive because their stories will still be told. He also talks about the importance of remembering the dead and honoring their memory. The story ends with the narrator's description of a dream he had where he sees her alive and happy, her as in Linda, his childhood friend, and then he realizes even though she's dead, she's still a part of his life. So, yeah, this is some important quotes from the lives of the dead, mostly about how we remember the dead. I would pay close attention to number 6. The dead, they dance, they sway, and uh, they whisper into your ears, and they glide and slide across the floor. And I would also say number 7, the dead are still alive all around us. So this signifies that once you die, you're not truly dead because the memory of the people who love you are still alive. So in some format, you are still alive. That's the main point of the story. Throughout the work's final statements seem to have little to do with Vietnam. It's the its relevance lies in addressing of the intimate relationship between death and life. This implies that life and death have the intimate relationship. Without one, the other cannot exist. O'Brien uses the lives of the dead to illustrate how his war narrative has a large purpose than simply showing the reader what it is like to be in a war. Interwoven through the story are smaller stories about death in Vietnam. That leads back to the story about O'Brien himself, a man who writes in order to make sense of his life, especially in relation to others' death. But also, at the forefront is the story of O'Brien's first love and his first realization that fiction can overcome death. Because fiction is fiction, it's not real. So you can bring back anybody from the death because they are not real. It's not real. That's the purpose of fiction, to create something fake. This is some important themes, basically memory, storytelling, death and loss, war and its consequences, imagination and fantasy. You have the memory of the person, you tell stories about the person, they are dead, so you experience death and you experience the loss of yourself or your senses. This is symbolism of Linda. Linda is the name of the girl O'Brien liked as a kid who died of cancer at age of 9. O'Brien tells the story of a young girl named Linda that he met in the 4th grade, and he and his family took her to see a movie, and she always wore a red cap. He found out that Linda had a brain tumor and that she died. Linda symbolized the loss of innocence since she was O'Brien's first experience with love and death all in one. After she died, O'Brien dreamed a lot about her to keep her alive in his mind. He links this to other people who died in his life: Kiowa, Kurt Lemon, Ted Lavender. He concludes that he and other soldiers reminisce about stories of the men to keep them alive. Instead of, because if you keep them alive, it's something close to you. You feel the presence. So feeling the warmth is what the story is about. The main idea of the Lives of the Dead by Tim O'Brien is that memories and storytelling have the power to keep the dead alive because you keep remembering about them, you keep them close to you. The story is a mediation on the nature of memory, death, and war, and its emphasis the importance of remembering and honoring those who have died. Through his own experience with death and loss, the narrator comes to realize that stories have the power to connect people across time and space and to preserve the memories of those who have passed away. In this way, the dead continue to exist in some form, even as they are gone from the physical world. Ultimately, the story suggests that memories and storytelling are essential part of what it means to be human, and that they have the power to transcend even the most profound experiences of loss and grief. This final notes, if I were you guys, I would focus on this. Main themes of the story: just memory, storytelling, death and loss, war and its consequences, imagination and fantasy. We can say that if somebody dies in the war, you want to keep the memory of them alive. You do it through storytelling, and because you're doing it through storytelling, you're imagining them and you're having a fantasy. We could say like that. That is the Lives of the Dead. Basically, how we can keep the dead alive. The dead are dead, but we can keep the memories of them alive. Those are something which we hold close to our heart, the memories of the people who have died. So if we keep revisiting the memories, we are honoring the dead. That's Tim O'Brien's main point in the Lives of the Dead, that we need to honor the memories of the dead, whether it be soldiers, somebody close to you, because the act of revisiting the memory keeps them alive in some form. That's the idea, that we need to keep, like, they might be gone from the physical world, but they are still there inside you, a part of you maybe. That's what O'Brien wants to get at with the Lives of the Dead.